When I recorded that intro, the fade out was far more subtle than we seem to get on the production. So maybe I'll have to slow it down or something. I don't know. But welcome. It's sweltering here in Europe. Yeah, I know in the States you get hot days, you get days in the 30s, but the old country, the old world, we're not set up for air conditioning and all those other things. So it's 30 something degrees outside. It's 25 degrees in here. Fortunately, my downstairs is still 20 degrees, so I'm not going to be moving until I can find somewhere with decent air conditioning. Welcome to the Power Hour. For all you production guys, great to have you here. This is well, I'd like to say a non-Z world, but obviously we are in Zoom. We're producing from Zoom. But this is not about Zoom. This is about the technology that we use for live productions and for hybrid events. And the thing that's hit me this week is production graphics. Because there's been quite a few new people entering the market. And yes, I used ChatGPT to make sure I didn't miss anybody. There's a wide range of hardware and software products we now have for video switching, guys. Really is. It's quite an impressive list of products. And most of the products that we look at nowadays for video switching, we want a little bit more than just going from one camera to another. We want some graphics. And how can I put this politely? There's been very little change in the last few years. Really, the changes have been very subtle, and actually the things that you can do, you really have to dig down deep into the documents to find out what they are. Traditionally, I say, as in when I joined this great world just 7 years ago. So I'm a newbie, and we had something called browser interfaces that we could put inside things like, well, in those days I was using OBS, vMix, a lot of the other products which we could mention today and probably weren't even around in those days. And we could have a browser overlay that would give us the ability to deliver browser graphics. We've still got products that give us browser graphics. There are quite a lot other platforms out there now, but can I politely say that the productivity of those browser graphics, it's not really jumped forward to any great degree. It's how can I put it politely? Look, I can't put it politely. Of all the other amazing things that we've been given in this world for graphics and for production, it's been really slow in that particular world, to my mind. Now, I know there are lots of amazing things you can do, especially when you start using video overlays and all of that stuff. But that's not what you get out of the box from most of these products. Most of these products give you an HTML graphics page and then a few boxes that slide in and slide out, and that's it. And when you look at all the amazing things they can do at the far end with the big broadcasters who are spending 100,000 for a studio which has got 3D and green screens and overlays and AR and all that stuff, as I think I've said in different shows before, there's still a really big gap before what they do and what we can do at our end. And I have two slower times in my work life. One is Christmas and the other one is now. So I am going to spend the summer playing with Going Green. Now, actually Going Green, we're not going to talk about until next week. Mike has a smile on his face now because he's just realized I've got myself organized and I have a long-term plan. I do, Mike. I have a long-term plan. But today, we're not going to talk about green screens. Today, we're going to talk about online graphics. Now, as I'm going to build myself a green screen studio over there to match what I'm doing behind me in this studio, in this IRL studio, shall we say, I'm obviously looking at the world of graphics. I'm thinking, okay, so when I'm going to go into a green screen world, I'm going to be able to have multiple studio setups within the green screen setup. And those studios are going to need their own style of graphics. So I don't just need one set of graphics. I need a range of graphics. I need like a family of different graphics packs to work in line with the brand of whatever I'm showing off. And I'm not going to tell you what it is for today. We'll leave that for another time. But when you start looking at all the products, and I've got a list down here. So we've got, in no particular order, this is just how ChatGPT came up with. We came up with vMix first. I got a feeling it came out of vMix first because I said vMix and OBS was what I've got, and find some others for me. So it starts with vMix, which of course, as we all know, I hope you know, it's a Windows platform. It can do native browser input. And of course, it's a Windows-based machine product. And also, and I still don't think they do this, but I think because of the way it processes its graphics, it's pretty much tied into NVIDIA graphics cards. Mike will come on a little while and correct me on all my mistakes. So I expect he's taking notes in the back. I know he's taking notes. I can see him taking notes in the background. So the next one, it's come up with OBS. Now, we all know OBS. How can I put this politely again? Many people who start on OBS are now leaving it, and many companies are producing products to get you off OBS and get you onto other platforms. They are taking, some of them have cheated and taken OBS as a platform and then just built on it and then eventually converted it into something different. But there are many products out there. OBS, still the one that we talk about, the free one that everybody starts with. It does browser graphics overlays as well. The next one, Wirecast, a product that I did use many years ago, but unfortunately for them, it lost out to OBS because OBS went more the way my brain thought. But Wirecast, again, now this is available, of course, on both platforms, Mac and Windows. And it is, of course, how can we say this? It's a software version of what they produce at a hardware level. Although I do get a little bit annoyed because a lot of these people, their hardware is just basically a Windows machine, broken so that it can only run their software. But they call it a dedicated device. It's dedicated to what they do, so I'll let them get away with that phrase. But Wirecast is the next on my list. And then we get to some Mac products. So we've got Ecamm Live, which allows widgets and HTML overlays in the same way, and Mimo Live, the other product that does that. And then it gets to Livestream Studio. Well, it's missed a few out, hasn't it? There we are. It's missed a few out, and Mike's going to come on and tell us what they are in a second. But of course, there's the other side of the world, the dedicated hardware products. And I mean dedicated hardware, not a Windows box with some software in it locked down to a piece of software. I mean a dedicated box for hardware. In that case, we've got things like Magwell or Magwell, depending which side of the world you come from. We've got Blackmagic Design. We've got YOLO Box and some of these other products that are coming from the Chinese area, shall we say, the Asian area, all these new products. There's many versions now at the lower level that are, I suppose, starting with what a basic Blackmagic Design switcher can do, and then sort of adding their own features. But a lot of them now have browser input. And then, of course, the TriCaster products, which starts as a piece of software running on a PC and then becomes a dedicated piece of software running on their own PC. But again, they have those video options of overlays. But most of them are expecting an HTML page into which they will give the overlays. And guys, that's pretty 2010. Maybe that's a bit rude. 2015, 2020. All I'm trying to politely say is we've been doing that for ages. because of the way these work. Very few of them are giving us the opportunity to do more flashy graphics. And when I say more flashy graphics, a lot of the stuff you see on the broadcast world, I know because I've tried to do it myself, because I've got a product that does basic overlay graphics. It's quite hard to do the animations that a lot of the broadcast people do now, where it's not just a lower third that slides in, it's a lower third that sort of starts with a line and then it grows out of the line and then something whooshes across and backwards. It's quite clever, it's quite pretty, and it's a lot more attractive graphics than we can do easily on HTML. Easily, I say, because there are ways to do it, but it is tricky. So the only way you're going to do this, if you're going to do this to the higher level, in other words, pre-animated video graphics, is you're going to need a video input. When you look at most of the stacks, shall we say, of building a stack for video output, until you get to the point where you break it into a scene type design, they tend to give you a video source, and then there'll be an upstream and a downstream key. But in most cases, those upstream and downstream keys are pretty much static image generated. You can do a upstream key on I think almost every single Blackmagic device, but it comes from a library of images and they come on there. Mike can show off, of course, because he's got a video animation that he uses where he has a animated graphic that works within the zoom and the zoom out. Maybe we'll ask him to try and show it off to us sometime. But a lot of these products don't have a true video source input. It's only when you get to the hardware devices when you bring in multiple sources. And I was actually looking at this yesterday, I think it was yesterday. And I was looking at the input sources for green screens, because that's where we're going next. And I was trying to work out how I could use, or if I could use, a green screen input layer to bring me in a video graphics animation instead. And I think on some of the devices, some of the hardware devices, I could be able to do it. So maybe the solution for doing these graphics is to completely ignore all the software that I've talked about and all the hardware devices, and start thinking about how you can bring in two video sources into your system and then layer them using green screen chroma key type or whichever, or layers, whichever you want to do it, depending on what the hardware is and how it works, so that you can bring effectively in two video sources, one video source being your talent, one video source being what you're going to do on your animated graphics. And of course, if you really want to go to the nth degree, then you're probably thinking about what your background's going to be, and can that be a third video source as well? And that will then give you the true sandwich and allow you to start moving up to the next level of graphics that the big boys do on TV. Because the thing is, if everybody watches those TV shows, whether it be sports or the news or the other place they use them, they are mentally now thinking about those types of graphics in their head to become mainstream to those people who watch television. And that's why we need to go up a level so that we are delivering the same sort of quality. That's my challenge to you, and that's my challenge to me. And of course, the best person to throw this challenge for comment is Mike Latta. So before we have a look at some of these products, can we get our Mike Latta onto the show? He's got a little bit more experience than me and has probably got some better ideas about what this all is. There he is. Hi, Mike. Welcome to the show.
Hello there. How's everybody doing this week? And John's going to blow our minds with graphics today. And he's blowing my mind so far. Let's see what we can do here.
So let's pull out, I'm sorry for the favoritism, but let's just pull out some of these products that you've used, Mike, and your view on how we can mix them together. Let's start with the one that I know you've used and I've used, and it was the top of my list. Let's talk about the guys at vMix. I'm pretty sure we can do everything we want here with vMix.
Yes. Yes. Especially since very recently within their last major integration of adding Zoom. Yes, we said the Z word, but yes, as far as a lot of what I'm doing today in production studio, I could actually do if I wanted to by bringing in John and I in individual sources as well as the shared source that we'll be showing you soon. I could actually do that all in vMix currently. Yes, absolutely. Without any issues, as long as I have the proper PC set up, which is always the important part, having the proper PC hardware to handle vMix perfectly. And I'm not using a desktop that I threw vMix on that I hope will work.
Yeah. So the big difference between all this HTML graphics, which is addressed by all these products through a web page browser type input. If we go to the animated graphics, then we need another HDMI, SDI, NDI if you have to, but we need another video source that we're going to pull into that particular product to mix together with a whole lot of the others. So we get that 3-layer sandwich of background, talent, and foreground.
Correct. Yeah.
So in a way,
again, you could always do a double layer in front as well, but that's getting more complicated. But simply is what John talked about. So your foreground, talent, background.
Okay. Yeah, we will get into the double layer as well. Yeah, certainly. But the limitation, therefore, is it's really the hardware, isn't it? It doesn't actually matter whether we talk about vMix, Wirecast, Ecamm Live, Mimo Live. We have to have some sort of hardware way of bringing in that additional video source. So actually the limitation in doing this is now a video merging together type issue, whereas doing standard graphics is just a load of browser issue.
Right, right. And again, it depends on the complicated nature of the graphics, which of course there's 3D graphics, there's graphics that look like it's floating. So there's all kinds of different scenarios where you can actually, then of course you are, all of a sudden we're getting immersive graphics as well. So you're in a green screen environment entirely where there's all of a sudden magically a graphic in front of you. And now you have to look at it. You could even think of it of the scenario of a weather person, right? Doing the weather, right? So
Yep.
That is the simplest version of, they know that they're talking to a green screen, but as far as we're watching at home, that's not even close. And then some of the news stations have really taken that to the nth degree lately in the US that I've seen, that the weather person will actually stand in a full green screened environment. And all of a sudden it looks like they're standing on the world. And all of a sudden has, the actual live cameras showing outside the weather coming in, or they'll actually have animations going this way and that way of here comes the front and this is what we expect it to be, et cetera, just as quick examples. But yeah, so even the basic, weather person in front of the green screen is sort of even morphed into engaging it into bringing that person as if they're physically in the weather, and all of a sudden having it look like it's raining on them, but yet that's actually rain. That's actually a front graphic or an overlay graphic. The person's not actually getting wet, but you could actually see the fog coming in, and they would do all kinds of different things.
But it's more engaging.
More engaging. It is. Yeah. It's actually, they've increased actually their viewership. That specific news station that I was talking about, they've increased their viewership because people want to see the cool weather person hanging out in this, because they're really taking the graphics to that nth degree. But again, the amount of equipment, as John is talking about, to do all of that and make sure that it moves, because the person is moving in this environment. So the graphic has to move properly through this environment, and it can be done well, or it can be done poorly, right? And you can tell when it's done poorly because all of a sudden you'll start seeing choppiness, right? And that is the machine that's currently manipulating the person to make sure that the graphic is consistent, is actually causing frame rate issues because it can't keep up with the person moving fluidly and also making the graphic move fluidly as well.
Okay. Because we can do this already, can't we? We don't need these off the shelf. VizRT is certainly a really good example of how they can take this to the nth degree, but you need 20,000 plus hardware to start with. You need $100,000 of software licenses to do that. But and I think it's worth every penny. Let me say, I don't have a big enough credit card. Even I don't have a big enough credit card to buy that to do this show. But the technology has already been there because we've got Unreal Engine, and and there are various other products. But I'll use Unreal Engine because I actually know that we can take our studio and we can put it into Unreal Engine as layered graphics, and then give ourselves that 3D world. And how good it is in as you said, hesitating as it moves around depends on how powerful your Unreal Engine PC is that it can keep up, and also how accurate and smooth your camera can be is going to be based upon whatever technology is telling the camera where it is in the Unreal Engine world, so it can keep up and make it look smooth.
Correct. And there's actual specific, which we won't get into today, but there actually are specific protocols that work in conjunction that Unreal Engine actually uses to make sure that the cameras are all in sync as well, and they all move as Unreal Engine moves. So it actually sends the commands to the cameras as well. So it can get really complicated real quickly, but it really looks really sexy too, all at the same time.
Yeah. However, if we don't move the camera and we keep the camera static, and maybe we just zoom out to a degree so the talent is smaller in the space, we then got space to drop our 3D graphics. And again, there's no such thing as 3D graphics on TV, guys. Let's just remember that. It's a flat screen. There's no such thing as 3D graphics. It's to give the impression of depth and 3D graphics. Many people who are streaming are told to have, even if they're not using it, something like a camera. Something like a microphone. That's a microphone. I can't tell the difference. That's not good, is it? Something like a microphone in front of the camera, between you and the camera. That's why I was using the camera. The camera was in my head, like Mike has done, because it is a way of giving a reference point to give you depth.
Yep.
And I have a 3D object behind me to try and give me depth as well.
Yep.
And Mike's chair gives him depth. It always looks like he's a small guy and the chair's too big for him, but you know, that's just a comfy chair.
Yes, it is a comfy chair.
He's a small guy, and he is a small guy, but we won't say anything like that. He's always big on my TV. So the ultimate of that 3D world is too much for us. It's too big a budget for us. It is just, there are, as you say, Mike, there are so many more problems that will be stacked to come into it. But that doesn't stop us. And we've talked about this on an earlier show. So you know I've been talking about this before. We've talked about this in an early show, how you can put if I put a square graphic here, it's a graphic just hanging in space. You have, if it overlaps me and my hand goes behind it, you get an idea of the depth. But if I sort of turn it to a degree and distort it a bit, so it becomes it gets a more of a 3D look, it looks like it's hanging more in 3D space. If I make it, thinner at one end and thicker at the other, it looks like it's angled. And if you get your graphics right, you can do this and give the impression of depth. So if the talent is standing there, okay, on the big TV shows, they can pan and tilt their cameras around, but you can do this live if you give up the possibilities and compromise on your cameras being fixed. Then you can do it, and you can give this impression of the 3D world that you're in without having to go to that level. But the point of this show is, many of the things we talk about, there always seems to be a really big jump from one level of layout and tech to the next. And I don't think we have to go from where we are now, where we've got we're in a world of scenes where we can have various ones of us sitting here. We got Mike and I here, and Mike's left the background around us as well. So we've got a scene, but there's nothing in this particular product that Mike and I could be at an angle. But if I remember rightly, I think vMix can do that, can't it, Mike? You can bring in an image, a video feed in, and you can then change the X, Y, Z, and you can get it to give that sort of 3D tilt.
Correct. Yeah. And again, that's getting into a lot of what they would classify as virtual sets.
Yeah. So virtual sets have been around for quite a while. And it's surprising how little we make of them all. We do them very simply. But green screen technology, which we'll get into next week, has also got stuck in a time warp, it seems, as well. But let's talk about that next week, because this is a big subject to cover. And the whole idea of this is to inspire you that we can go to another level of graphics and just make it look more sexy.
That's it.
I am. What prompted this was actually, this show is actually Mike. It's his fault, so you can blame him, because he brought to my attention that another hardware manufacturer had brought out their own title graphics product.
Yep, that was me.
Yep, and that was for Roland.
Roland Professional AV, yes.
Yeah, you've got quite an impressive range of hardware switches. I mean, they're not top of the range, but if you compare them to, they're not a sub $1,000 type company, are they, with their range? Their range is more of the 1,000 to 5,000 sort of range of switches. The sort of professional, semi-professional, would you call them?
Yeah, they're not the pro level, so they're not what I would call, they're not broadcast level, but they are definitely the early. They were the ones that actually came out before Blackmagic came out with the A10 Minis. So the A10 Mini line. So now Blackmagic, when they had their hardware, their larger rack mountable switchers, Roland always had their portable switchers. And that's what they've always been known for, as their portable switchers. And then, of course, Blackmagic caught on and went, oh, yeah, I think we should get into this stuff too and do it better. So this is where Blackmagic took their stuff and did it, better, because they were in the video game longer than Roland has been. But when it comes to the actual Roland equipment, the Roland equipment is rock solid, just like the Blackmagic equipment is rock solid. And they actually just came out with a newer version now that actually, if you're familiar with their HD model, they have decided to come up with a 4K HDMI model. So that's where they've now actually brought in the graphics for certain models. And I sent that information over to John, and that's why it inspired John for today's show. But yes, they actually do offer free software, as long as you have their equipment, though, that will work in conjunction with their graphics. Well, the graphics will work in conjunction with their hardware, because they do some funkiness, which I was actually digging into, related to the key and fill capabilities coming from their graphics software over the HDMI port into the actual HDMI switcher, where they've actually specifically made the specific port that can handle that technology.
Yeah, I had a look at that too, and I was really quite impressed. I thought it was a good implementation, because they got the graphics in there, and it's not just text graphics. You can have all video type animated graphics in there as well, which was really neat.
Yeah, stingers and such like that too. Yep. Stinger sports graphics, lower thirds, tickers. They hit the majority of the big things that you need to have in a graphics package to be usable.
So let's try and make sense of this HDMI input for your graphics, because I think a lot of people are not really understanding how you do this, how you can bring in a, well, hopefully most people, let's start with simple graphics. Most people should know that you can have a JPEG or a GIF image and you can put it on a screen and it looks fine. But the problem is there is no background layer. There's no background layer defined in that. And if you want to use one of those, then you have to basically cheat, tell the graphics package that it's a chroma key input, and make the background a really strong green, so that the package will then remove the green and give you the transparent layer that you want.
Right.
However, if you use a PNG graphic can have a transparent layer.
Right.
And we've got the same issue with video. Mike, you take over.
Yeah. And so when it comes to the transparency, it's where you have to know you have your Luma and your Chroma different transparency. So when John gave the green screen or type scenario, that's preferably your Chroma key. But again, depending on the type of graphic you have, you could actually do either Chroma or Luma. And again, it really will depend on the majority of your graphics on where it best suits, right? So if it's a more darker type graphic, you might want to go more Luma than Chroma. And if it's a more brighter graphic, you might want to go Chroma versus Luma. So that's where you've got to take into consideration the different graphics that you're going to be using. And then unfortunately, you have to stick with either one technology or the other, because if you're flipping back and forth, then you've got to have a system, hardware, software, whatever, to be able to handle going between a Luma graphic and a Chroma key graphic.
Okay.
And that's what
So
you're talking
going up-
about on the video side, John, right?
Yeah,
Right.
that's right. So the next step up, when it gets more complicated again, but also more powerful again, is when you have two feeds. So you have a mask plus the
Right.
graphics. Would you like to describe how
mask-
that works?
Mask plus the graphics. Okay. Let me see how I can do this at a fairly
Okay,
low
well,
level.
so let's try a simpler example then to make this
Right.
easier, because I'm trying to do this in steps so people can make sense of it all, me
Right.
included. So if I take the Blackmagic Ultimatte products,
Yes.
which
Yes.
are dedicated devices to remove the green screen from backgrounds to make a transparent background for putting people on places. The
Right.
basic version of that one, the lowest level in the tree, is a HD based green screen, and it has HDMI slots on it because it's expected to connect to HDMI devices at the sort of the low level of production. And it only produces one HDMI output, which is the person with a transparent background of some sort.
Right.
And then the next level up, which is where it gets the two inputs, is the next Ultimatte version of it, which I think is twice the price, has more inputs. It's SDI, but it actually produces two SDI outputs. One is the content of the person that's been cut out from the green screen, but the second output is a mask, which can be used then to mask out or mask in, depending which way you think of it in your head, the
Right.
background. So you get a mask of where the background will be, and you get a transparent image of the person who's inside that mask.
Exactly. And again, this is where the different signals get sent down the different pipe, and then you have to have, in just like Roland did, you have to have the brains within the actual machine or software to be able to actually take the two signals and put them together. And this is where John's sort of going when we're talking about masking. We're putting them together now nicely, and they look really rich and such, as compared to where if you were just sending a graphic overlay, sending it down without using a key or a fill, then it will look a little rigid, rough. Where if you have key and fill, it makes it a lot more smoother, a lot more cleaner. The font will be a lot more vibrant, and it'll truly look like the font that you want to use, as compared to it being a little more not really distorted, because it won't distort the graphic, but it'll be more rigid. John, is that the right word?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let me take it back to the 2D idea again. Because this, I mean, a video is just a whole load of, 2D pictures, just one after the other very quickly. So in the one input world,
right,
you are sending a video for the whole screen, which has a transparent layer, so the background will see through it. But as I understand it, and maybe this is too technical, but maybe this will make it more easier for you to understand. If you do that, then what happens inside the box is there is a video playing, which is your background, and
right,
it's overlaying the other video on top of it.
Correct. But
and that's where you get the problem, because what you're doing is you're just squashing one image on top of the other.
Yeah.
Whereas when you get a 2-input source, what happens is you start with the background, and then the matte layer comes in and it cuts out the image of what you're just about to put on there. So there's a blank there. So so when the final talent comes into the picture, rather than being put over on top of other graphics and colors, which can cause, as you say, distortion and makes things look a bit weird around the edge, you're actually dropping it into a hole that you've just made with the matte layer. So it fits much better into that matte layer, and there's nothing behind it because you've just cut it out with the other layer. I hope that makes a bit more sense.
Nope.
And then of course you do it frame by frame, and then it cascades.
Right. And of course, it all comes down to making sure that whatever you're putting in front of the, let's say in John's scenario where he had the video background, and then you're putting somebody in front, then you've got to make sure that that person is really lit really well, because if they are not, you will see it. It will look terrible.
Yeah. Like taking two camera shots, and then one's lit well and one's not lit well. If they do that, then it looks bad. You're doing the same thing here with the graphics, with the talent.
100%, John. 100%.
Okay, so if we go back to what we're talking about this week, which is graphics, you have exactly the same issues. We're just doing it backwards, because what we're trying to do is we're dropping a green screen graphic on the front of the image, and exactly the same rules apply for the green screen. If the graphics looks really bold and dark colors, and I was going to switch my lights off, but I won't. If you're in a dark studio and you're not well lit,
right,
then you're going to look poor when those graphics appear on the screen.
100%. 100%.
So we've all been trying to teach everybody to make you look good compared to your background. But if you're going to add graphics, you're going to have to look good compared to your graphics as well as your background. All three are going to need to have some sort of context. They're going to need to have some sort of branding rules, because you want to choose the right colors. I don't know if anyone ever notices, but Mike and I do tend to set to primary colors. We're either wearing black, blue, or red. Yeah. I can't remember us ever being in any other colors but black, blue, or red. And when they are pretty strong colors, and they're not muted. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. The only other color that I'll do on occasion, because again, I've got to take into consideration my chair, right? Yep. So I've got my background, which is already blue. So I've got my chair that's gray. So if I'm gray, then I'm going to mold into my chair. that because I'm going to start disappearing now as far
Yep.
as video is concerned. So I've got to stay away from this gray. Can I go a lighter shade of this gray? Yes. Can I go a brighter shade of this gray? Yes. But again, if I'm going to start using green screens too, now I have to stay away from anything in the chroma family of green.
Yep.
Right? Because as soon as you get close, all of a sudden now I might have that, but all of a sudden my background will come on my belly if I'm standing up as a weather person, as an example. And I've seen it, unfortunately, that the weather person decided that, oops, they were going to wear something greenish. And the chroma key went, oops, that's green.
When I was researching this, I saw a great prank done on a weatherman where one of the other presenters dressed up in a full green screen. I don't know what you call it, but anyhow, they had a full green screen costume on. And then while he was doing the weather, they were walking across him and around him and putting their hands across him and things like that. And of course, when we were watching the weather, we couldn't see because she was green screen. So she was invisible. But of course, when she puts her hand in front of him, he becomes invisible. And the background of the weather would then appear across his body.
Right. Because the technology is not smart enough to understand that it says, okay, you've told me everything this color, and it doesn't have to be 100% chroma key green, especially depending on the equipment you have. If we take the Blackmagic as an example, when you actually tell it, you could actually say, I want this green right now.
Yep.
And John will show you in a minute what we're talking about. But when it comes to, I want this green, so I'm going to eyedrop this green because it might not be 100% proper chroma key, but again, it's going to be however lit that chroma key background is, then they will match it and say anything that's this is that green. So if you get anywhere close within a little bit this way or a little bit that way of that green, yeah, your chest or your belly or whatever you're wearing or your pants, if it's greenish, as far as the system is concerned, you will fade away into the background. And this is where a lot of them will, a lot of people will also cheat too, is that they will purposely wear, put green screen material on the table too. Why? So you can now actually mask the table as part of your virtual set. So now it could also be green screen too, so that it looks like you're actually then sitting at a proper desk. So there's all kinds of little green screen tips when it comes to that. But yeah, when it comes to graphics, yes, as far as, and again too, if you're switching cameras, that's a whole other ball game here too. Because the assumption is that you have one main camera like John and I are on right now. But if you do have another camera and you still have that effect on, then you better make sure that all your cameras and all your lighting and everything is 100% identical, because it will fall apart so quickly, it won't be funny.
Okay, well, it's taken a bit longer to explain all that than I hoped it would, but actually I thought we might get a little bit into this because this is really fundamental. And how can I put this politely? A lot of you out there will say, yeah, we know this. Well, I'm going to challenge you. Do you really know this? You might understand the principles, and that's where I live at the moment. I understand the principles. But as soon as I started playing with this technology, I realized I only know the principles. And actually, when you start doing things in practice, it's not as easy as you think it is. Once you've done it and you've got a process, yeah, I can see how it's all going to work for all of us. But actually, if you understand the theory, but you've not practiced the practice, this is a tricky world to be in. And I will use the product we're using now just to show you how silly things can get so quickly. Because if I go to the appearance and virtual backgrounds on this particular product, Can I pop it out? No, I probably can't pop it out. Let's see how silly I can make my world straight away.
Yeah.
Now I look okay-ish. However, this is not a green screen.
Right.
This is an AI screen. And this is the hole that a lot of people are in at the moment because they think that this is acceptable. It isn't acceptable, firstly, because it's talking about Zoom, and we try and make this a Zoom free area. So I apologize for that, but it was the easiest way to demonstrate it. There are lots, and I'm demonstrating this because whether you're on Zoom, Teams, or other things, there are lots of people who think that I have fantastic now green screen background. I don't have a green screen, and it's using an AI to decide where the color is and where I am. And maybe I should bring my famous chair with the lattice background, which can't tell the difference either when things are happening. This is what we need to compete with, Mike, isn't it? The people that think that they can just click a button on, and it's not just on Zoom, it's on probably all the products we've talked about. I can't think of one that isn't. All the software products we've talked about, certainly, you can click on a button and you can choose a color and it will try and then green screen it out. And then my hands, this is quite a powerful, this is a Mac Mini. This is quite a powerful Mac Mini. So I haven't got the extent to some people, but I've seen people who have, you know, they just lose fingers as soon as they do this because they've only got a base level laptop, and the laptop graphics card is trying to produce this video signal and it's trying to do the graphics and see where the graphics are. And it's not a good professional look to my mind when people do these presentations and they have really bad graphics. I mean, this is probably a good example of a bad graphic because there's just too much going on. This is where we play with, and of course, if I turn on the green screen, then it just gets silly because it now it's trying to find a green screen for me.
That's right. So now it thinks your glasses are green. It thinks your beard has a little bit of green in it. It thinks all kinds of wonderful things. Yeah, absolutely. And John, too, what the other caveat in this too, and I don't know if you're going down this road or not, is over usage of graphics. All of a sudden, I have to have, you can do that. John, you got an example of that one? Yeah. Watch what I mean by over graphics.
No, everybody. No, I won't. It's really cruel. Yeah, you're tempting me. No, I will not. I will be a good boy and I will not get carried away. Yes, I could stick about six graphics on here at the same time.
Yes, I know. That's the whole point of saying, no, you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, you shouldn't do that. You really shouldn't do that.
Right. There is such a thing as graphic overkill, right? So, yeah. So again, there would be, yeah. So there we go. Watch this. There you go, John. Go for it. Yeah. And again, John,
these are the built-in ones from that Z company. It's, you know, it's very depressing, really, isn't it? Well, these are the defaults they give us.
Yes, you are in a Zoom window. But you can see even that one graphic that John had up there that had it all in the different corners. That's where you got to be careful too. Yeah, good dog. Yeah, good doggy. Yeah. But yeah, so when it comes to over graphics, that is where all of a sudden everybody finds the new toy of a graphic. Oh no, I can make graphics. And all of a sudden I'm having a graphic here, there, here, there, here, there, here. And it gets to the point where your head is barely showing through a graphic. That doesn't look very professional. You know, that is the gaming world, right? If you want to be a gamer and have your graphics all over the place because you're in a video game, that's a different story. If you're professionally doing it where you're being interviewed by the top television channels around the world, chances are you want to leave the graphics, first of all, to them and not have any of your own graphics. But B, if they do allow you to have your own graphics, at most I would have maybe a logo at the top, you know, maybe a lower third of my name, but maybe instead of maybe the lower graphic in the lower third might have my logo in it as well. But beyond that, no, because now you are breaking the brand of the television station, as an example, when I'm talking about being interviewed by your local TV channel or even a nationwide based situation. And I've seen all kinds of wonderful things too. And John's right. Not only is it in the Z, T, or W world, but we're also talking about too that this could easily be done on any webcam software where they actually have a lot of this capability too, that automatically you don't even have to rely on the Z, T, and W software to do this for you. You could actually do it within the actual webcam software that happens to be on your PC, Mac, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that will actually do a lot of this stuff in the background too. But again, this is where you got to be careful, because now if you're doing it at that level, which John and I've talked about this before, when we were talking about audio, now you've got the different layers. Now you've got, if the webcam software is dealing with your background, great. But don't put on Zoom's background because you've already got the webcam background on. You can't have a background over top of the background because it'll just look horrible, because they'll be both fighting each other, right? Just like audio will fight each other. If you have this effect on here, and then all of a sudden you add that effect over there down the chain while you're adding the double audio effect, same thing with video. You're adding the W video effect when it comes to the graphics as well.
That's great. So my takeaway for you is this. Graphics that have been around for ages, and I'm really quite depressed how little they've developed, unless you get ridiculous. But my challenge to you is maybe you need to find a better way than just a simple lower third graphic. Something that's a little bit more impressive. As Mike said, you don't want dozens of these. You only need a lower third name for all the people. Maybe you want something to float up here or float up there for, you know, a list of social media contacts that just appears for 20 seconds towards the end of a presentation. But there are lots more opportunities to do better graphics, and a few underlined better graphics can really take a presentation to another level, look better, easier to follow, look more professional. But it's a few quality graphics that are going to make it, not a lot more coming along just for the sake of it. And yes, we're not having a go at Roland, because the Roland system, you can bring in animated video style graphics. So it is a good implementation. Sneaky the way they've implemented it, but it is a good implementation. And I think that's where we all need to go. Either go and buy Roland, or we find a way within your existing setup that you can do quality animated graphics, because lower thirds just don't cut it anymore. And poor Mike now is trying to get the next graphics sorted out for what happens next. So thank you very much for being here. I hope we didn't overawe you for this hour about things, but have a look at your setup. Work out how you could bring in a more video-based animated graphics into your lower thirds, because it makes a big difference and it impresses people, and you don't need a lot of them. Just to take the weather person's idea, take that great idea from Mike. Can you see how more impressive it would be if a CEO was standing and this big graphics of the company results appears behind them, to the CEO still stands, but within this 3D space, and the graphics of the final results look like float down from the sky, as if a monitor's just been dropped into the scene and displayed the graphics there. It is such a big jump. It's not that hard. when you think about it. But again, got to get it done in practice. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope I've inspired you to improve your graphics, and we'll see how well I got on in my challenge to do the same over the next few weeks. But I leave you with the mellow Mike Latta to sing us out.
You want me to be mellow? All right. Thanks everyone for joining us this week. All right. No, I'm going to get a little more energetic. Thanks everyone for joining us this week on the Production Professionals Power Hour. As
Even
we
the
call it.
singers know it right now.
What's that?
Even the singers can sing it right now.
I know. I'm glad that they rehearsed more. That was good for them to actually rehearse more and for them to get that demo right this time around. Suno. As we call it in short form, PPPH. So don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel to let YouTube know how much you love our content. Thank you to Tony and to Juju from YouTube, offering comments and such. And Tony, the quick answer to you on any thoughts on H2R graphics or similar. I think John and I will do that in an upcoming episode coming very soon, John, where we'll talk more into specific packages and specific surprises too. Let's leave it at that, Johnny. What do you think? All right. Join us again, everyone, next week. We're here every Friday at, and I'm going to do this right, John, 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. There we go. And that allows us to make sure that you guys can actually see us every Friday at that time. And it's best to check your local time zone to make sure that you can join us live, where you're able to ask us questions live as well. And Tony, thanks for the question. We'll put our thoughts together about that, and we'll show that to you in an upcoming episode in the upcoming weeks. So take care, everyone, and have a great weekend. And we will see you next week here on the Production Professionals Power Hour. Take care. Enjoy.
Lights go up and the cameras roll. Voices clear and we're in control. Screens are live and the signals flow. Welcome to the place where the pros all go. Talking gear and the tools we trust. What works well and what gathers dust. From the studio floor to the online stage, we bring the knowledge page by page. Live or hybrid, in room or remote. Every shot and every note. Better system, sharper sound. This is where the best is found. It's the Production Professionals Power Hour. Building better shows with skill and power. Live hybrid, online too. Sharing what the experts do. Hardware, software, tested live. Helping every production thrive. Step inside, the future's now. Welcome to the Power Hour. Switches, streaming, mics and light, making every moment land just right. Guests and makers join the conversation, bringing insight, crafting innovation. From the first idea to the final frame, every tool can change the game. Manufacturers, pros and brands, sharing real solutions firsthand. Live or hybrid, room or remote, every cue and every note. Smarter workflow, stronger shows. That's the way the power grows. It's the Production Professionals Power.